Good evening, everybody. This is Darius Assemi, your host at GBWire Unfiltered. Welcome to another great episode this beautiful uh, fall Tuesday evening, right before Halloween, by the way, which is coming up in a few days. So I'm sure a lot of families and kids are getting excited about Halloween and what it brings to us here in Central California. We have a great program for you. We know Prop 50 is on a lot of people's minds. There's multiple sides to this issue. We have two outstanding guests with us this evening. Clovis City Council member and former Clovis Mayor Drew Bessinger is with us. Let's put Drew on the screen, please. And there we go. And Lonnie Johnson, who is a Democratic Party representative, District 5, and PAC chair. What is PAC? Political Action Committee. That's where the money comes from. Uh, Fresno, Madera counties, California, and also California Teachers Association. He's also running for governor of the United States. No, okay. um, okay, so we're going to bring Drew and Lonnie in a few minutes, but please keep Eric, if you can keep the screen on, because I want to get some of their reaction on some of the other non-Prop 50 issues that we have coming up. Okay, weather. Fantastic weather coming up over the next 7 days. There it is, 70s. It can't get any better than that. Sunny 70s, cooling off to the low 50s at night. Do you think President Trump is using the National Guard as his private army? Kind of split, 50, almost 50-50, but a slim majority said no. What do you think about the U.S. Marine Corps firing live rounds over Interstate 5 that exploded with shrapnel falling on two CHP vehicles? Uh, it's never okay to put the public at risk during a military celebration. Turkey offered to help in post-war Gaza. Israel hasn't given the green light yet. And in a shift, by the way, with relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Trump says, I will decide what is right for Israel. We give Israel $4 to $5 billion a year, U.S. taxpayer money. I think President Biden gave close to $20 billion of military aid, basically bombs to destroy Gaza. And President Trump says, I'm not going to become a puppet, although some folks, I'm not sure, would agree with that statement. Israeli planes, as soon as President Trump said, uh, I will decide what is right for Israel, Israeli planes strike Gaza in test of U.S. brokered ceasefire. I guess Prime Minister Netanyahu's firing back and saying, you know what, we'll tell you what is good for Israel and that part of the world. Um, By the way, there's a lot of question about who runs U.S. foreign policy as it relates to the Middle East. Is it really the President of the United States and the Foreign Relations Committee of the Congress, whether it's the Senate or House of Reps, or is it a direct influence by Israel and the lobby groups that basically tell U.S. government and U.S. presidents and members of Congress how to act and how to spend U.S. taxpayer money? A lot of articles on that. Code Pink, by the way, a U.S.-based American, primarily Jewish woman, are raising a lot of these issues. Two members of Congress in the halls of Congress. Okay, Hurricane Melissa begins lashing Jamaica. Most of you saw that. Category 5 storm. Let's go on to slide 11. And then slide 12, which puts us into why President Trump's East Wing demolition needed to happen. Article for those of you that are interested on why the East Wing was demolished. It's going to be a gorgeous new ballroom. Drew or Lonnie, do you know anything about that ballroom? Are we going to get a chance to go use it or not? You guys know that?
Go ahead, Drew.
Well, hopefully I can get invited to the inauguration of maybe JD Vance in 3 years, but that who knows?
Okay. Okay. Lonnie?
Um, Presidents have changed the White House. It's sad. Such a dramatic change is happening to the East Wing of the White House. But President Truman in the late 40s, he gutted the White House and rebuilt from the inside because it was necessary. I don't know if this demolition and rebuilding of the
Okay.
destroying the East Wing was necessary.
Okay. Bill has a quick comment, and we're going to move on to the next item. Bill? You're on mute, Bill.
Very quickly, I mean, the inside, if you look at the actual sketches, the ballroom is in the design of what the White House looks like. Out on social media and a lot of stories, they've had these caricatures of what this ballroom's going to look like. So I'm wait and see on that. The other thing is East Wing had a lot of problems. I mean, they're demoing that side. That's why I brought that opinion to GB Wire. We cover all sides of the issues, and I thought it was an interesting take by the columnist that this needed to happen, and then also offers opinion about preservation versus development and how America has struggled with that over the last 30 years or so.
Good points. There's something, by the way, historic preservation, which I was not a part of, but I dealt with here in the city of Fresno. We have to identify the jewels of Fresno so we don't go back and demolish, what was it, the courthouse back in 50, 60 years ago. There's some jewels that we should spend resources preserving. There's other buildings that are just old, 50, 60, 70 years old, that doesn't merit preserving and will cost substantial more money to preserve and work with versus demolishing and building something state of the art, by the way, that could look exactly like that building. A lot of great technology out there. I know that's not a popular statement among historical preservationists, but it all costs a boatload of money. Okay, let's move on. Hundreds of air traffic controllers take second jobs as shutdown continues. Today is the first $0 paycheck for federal workers, by the way. Latest poll on president, his popularity dips as Americans sweat cost of living. That's a Reuters Ipsos poll, and let's put the numbers up so everybody gets a chance to see it. Again, that's according to Reuters Ipsos poll that was released, I think yesterday or day before. There are the numbers. 40% of Americans approve of Trump's job performance compared to 42% in October. People who say they disapprove of his performance has grown 52% in a May 16th poll to 57%, so about 5 percentage points higher on the disapproval rating of our president. And 29% didn't care or were glad about the shutdown. It's pretty interesting. 20% said they were angry, 50% said they were frustrated. I wonder, and we don't need to discuss it now, but are we going to continue to get our mail? I mean, U.S. mail service. Yes, Drew says yes. Yes, Drew, we're
Well,
going to get.
the Postal Service is not a governmental agency.
Okay, privately funded. Is it BlackRock funded or no?
No, it's a private corporation,
Got it.
public-private corporation of some type.
Okay. Bill, you had an article on being Latino in the United States should not be a crime. Tell us about that.
So when you look at the numbers of people held by ICE or Homeland Security in these immigration sweeps, it's interesting to note 170 of them have been American. Many of them military veterans. They had their ID cards, military ID cards. They had their driver's licenses and all that. And you have these ICE agents saying they didn't care. The case that's got the most interest is George Reedus. He was dragged from his and held for 3 days. He had his government ID with him. They didn't even let him make a phone call. So because of the Supreme Court ruling allowing immigration sweeps to go out there as rovers, not having arrest warrants and the like, we've gotten into the situation. It's my feeling it's un-American. I believe the government should reduce illegal immigration. It should secure the border. But we need to do it in a way that upholds the American Constitution and American values. President Trump is ignoring those values and citing a lot of fear. And when you see who is being targeted, it's Hispanics, whether they're undocumented or they're citizens. And this just isn't right. And there have been a lot of protests, and I think this is why, you know, you had tens of millions of people protesting President Trump because people do hold the Constitution and their rights dear to their heart. And the other thing is, this effort is not effective. President Trump is trailing Barack Obama in regards to deportations. And that administration did it for a lot less money. And they did it with an effective strategy, which is they targeted new arrivals saying, we don't want you to get a foothold here. Go back to your country, apply the right way. And they also went after the worst of the worst and deported a lot of violent criminals who had no business being here. So I would hope that the Trump administration is smart enough to realize what they're doing is against American values. It's needlessly costing taxpayers a boatload of money. Everyone now sees in the NFL broadcasts on Sunday, $50,000 bonus to come to work for ICE. Barack Obama did this with far fewer employees, and the numbers show did a better job. So hopefully the Trump administration is capable of some reflection. And I'm sure Councilman Bessinger, not to put words in his mouth, but would say it's always best to rely on best practices and to examine your data continually and adjust.
Can I respond to that
Drew,
very
yes,
quickly?
please. Yes, please, Drew.
With and I've looked at the data. The Obama administration did deport a lot of folks, but this is before the sanctuary city debacle that's come up. The Trump administration can't deport people who are in custody in sanctuary states because they won't turn them over to them. And I mean, I think that, and I'm going to take them at their word, but from what I've heard from the administration, if the states would permit them to grab up the bad hombres, they wouldn't have to go out into the neighborhoods to look for people. But I agree that because you're Latino should not subject you to detention based on the color of your skin. But so we need to fix that.
And the big thing I'll point out is because of this policy, ICE, the people that are doing this, they don't have the cooperation of the Hispanic community. And that was always emphasized in the past. We're not going to deport good people or people that may be undocumented. We will tell them, get on the path if you haven't been committing crimes, but we want your cooperation because we want to identify the bad guys. That isn't happening because I would guess that only a handful of people that are Hispanic are actually cooperating and telling ICE, hey, that's where the bad guy lives. They've turned off that cooperation. And, you know, police chiefs in California have always said this. We don't arrest people on immigration status. One, you're not empowered to, but two, they don't hassle people about that because they truly want to find the bad guys.
Well,
Okay,
we
we're gonna.
can't.
I'm gonna. Okay, good. Let me go to Lonnie. Lonnie, you had a comment on this.
Yeah, just real quick. I want to back up what Bill's saying, but also the point that we're not going through due process on this. And this is just so un-American how we're doing this. We all agree the border's got to be secured. We know that. We all agree that the criminals need to be deported. The problem that we're having is that we're just going and just rounding people up and scaring people and frightening people. People are scared in schools. This is not necessary. It doesn't have to be this way to, like Bill's talking about, and get the same objective. And that's make our society safer and secure our borders. We're a sovereign nation. We have every right to secure our borders. But we need to go through due process because that's who we are. We're Americans. Okay. And that's why we're Americans, is because we're supposed to be doing things the right way. And we're not doing things the right way right now.
Let me bring Drew up at the same time. Drew, you had a response to Bill or Eric's. I'm
Well,
sorry, not Eric's, Lonnie's.
Lonnie, when I started as a law enforcement officer in 1980 in Santa Barbara, we would take people into custody for crime, put an immigration hold on them, and they would be gone after that. If and now we don't do it because we are prohibited by California law from cooperating with ICE. If somebody's in custody for a serious crime, that should be a no-brainer. They should be deported. That's part of, if they're here illegally, have a nice day. But we don't permit that. So we, I think there's a good area in the middle here where reasonable people can work together. But I think both sides have kind of dug in now because you're a fascist if you're doing it, and you're a hero if you're not.
Okay, any other comments on this, Lonnie? Because we're going to move on.
Well, I mean, I would agree. I would agree with the councilman. I think, there's got to be some type of middle ground where we can preserve who we are, and we can enforce the law, and we can secure our border. And don't forget, everyone, we need immigrants. Our
Yep.
farmers around here, our ranchers around here, we need them. Okay, our population is going down. Without immigration, population in the United States would actually be going down, and that's not good for anyone.
I was talking to one of my friends, a local, very successful business person. Our uh, population growth in the country is close to zero, getting closer to zero,
Yeah.
and immigration is slowing down substantially, and we're making it very difficult for legal immigrants to come here. H-1B visas, which is the smart engineers and scientists that what was the quota? 180,000 a year, 200,000 a year. Got reduced under Obama, got reduced under Biden, and I don't know what the number is. Is 30,000 visas can only be allowed for the brainiest people from across the world to immigrate here, and that's a mistake. That should be unlimited. Do a background check and let folks come in. My issue, and I'm a broken record, immigration is a problem of government. Our government is not dealing with legal immigration. So people go, if I want to come here, here's the things I got to do. I got to be vetted, and they only will allow X number in, and they need labor, they need brainy people, and they need investors in this ratio. So people from all over the world know you get vetted and you come across, and we have to have secure borders. And if we don't have immigration, we're going to have a difficult time paying for Social Security services and Medicare services for the folks that are dependent on those dollars because you won't have enough taxpayers to pay that. Unless, I don't know what's going to happen 5 to 10 years from now with AI and robots and employment, but that's a whole different conversation.
Hmm.
Okay, we're gonna move on because we want to bring these gents into Prop 50, which is the main topic. Okay, California State Retirement Fund lost 75%. I have these two different numbers here, Bill. It says million and I also have billion. They lost 468 million?
So they
And the,
lost 468 million on their clean energy investment fund.
okay,
Considerable total. And meanwhile, the people that steered those dollars in and made the decisions, the financial advisors, their fees on this loss were 22 million. So they're giving you bad advice and they're still collecting $22 million
Wow.
for their bad advice. People that are part of the California CalPERS should be outraged by this. In addition, this is a story getting tremendous traction on GV Wire. I think we have it exclusively, and it came from Center Court. CalPERS right now is only 79% funded. That means the taxpayers of California are on the hook for roughly $180 billion in unfunded pension liabilities right now. And we do point out California has two main pension systems for its public employees. The CalSTRS, which I'm sure Lonnie's a part of, the California Teachers Retirement System, and then CalPERS for other employees. Also in California, we have an interesting situation like police in the city of Fresno and fire. Fresno has a separate pension system. And I'll point out, we take shots at City Hall all the time. The pension system for the police officers and the firefighters is one of the best funded in the nation. And it's been that way for quite a long time. They've had great stewardship with it.
Thanks for that great explanation, Bill. CalPERS only 79% funded. Taxpayers are responsible for roughly 180 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. Okay, a hot story on GVWire. You want to read the rest of the story? Go to gvwire.com. CalFresh, Fresno nonprofits put out call for help as CalFresh benefits end Saturday. Bill, this is one of your stories.
So this was written by Edward Smith on our staff. Excellent reporter, always gets the whole story. And what is happening is, even if there's a deal now to fund the government going forward, it's really too late for the month of November. And all our local food banks and our independents like Poverello House, Fresno Mission, they've been told this. And so they're putting out the call. They need a lot of volunteers to help with food distribution. Also, harvest season's winding down. They're getting fewer contributions of fruit and vegetables from our local farmers. Our local farmers have been a big part of feeding the hungry in Fresno for a long time. But this time of year is tough. Finally, Darius, Central California Food Bank is already doing assistance with government employees. They went to Lemoore Naval Air Station. They've met with all kinds of federal employees and long lines. They need this food. In September, they got a partial paycheck. Today, they got zero pay for the work they performed in October. So if you have time on a Saturday, Sunday coming up, get a hold of the rescue mission, get a hold of Poverello House, get a hold of the food bank. They'd like you to help with food distribution.
Cool. Any other, Drew, you had a comment on any of this?
When we were talking about CalPERS, one of the reasons that CalPERS has taken a hit is because they have a policy that they cannot invest in any energy related businesses that are for fossil fuels. And so
Right.
they forced them to put their money into these questionable energy programs, and they've lost their shirt.
Good point. A couple of comments from our last topic. Chris Dowdy, we didn't allow due process to allow immigrants in during the last 4 years. Now the Democrat Party screams due process because they know that will slow everything to a grinding halt. Chill Sweet, it's a cool name. Snatching immigrants trying to do it the right way for reporting to their citizenship hearings is wrong. That happened with the general manager of Pismos, who is still in custody, by the way. Jimmy brought out several articles on that. We're going to move on because we have a really hot topic coming up. And I know these two gents want to share their thoughts with the GVWire Unfiltered audience. Okay, Fresno County concealed carry weapons permit to go up first time in nearly 20 years. That will go into effect, when is that? November 19th. Prices will go up to renew your a CCW permit and if you are a county resident. How many CCW holders are in California? There's some number like 120,000, 150,000, but they're the most law-abiding citizens by and large, and so many restrictions are coming down on CCW holders. Two Cities Marathon returns this weekend with scenic Fresno Clovis course, which roads will be closed, and there's going to be quite a few of them, some of the major roads in our area. So check out that great article. I think that was Anthony's article that showcases where you can and can't drive on Sunday. Okay, now it's time for Fresno City Council update. So let's put up Council President Carbasi's video for a brief update from the city of Fresno.
Good evening, Darius, and hello to our Unfiltered audience. This is your exclusive for the Unfiltered audience only preview of Thursday's council meeting. I'm Mike Carbasi, City Council President for the City of Fresno. We have a day before Halloween meeting, and happy Halloween to all of you. But we have a lot of ceremonial items on the agenda. But more importantly, we have some really big policy items. One of the biggest ones we've talked about on this program, and Darius was even there to talk about it, was the VMT, Vehicle Miles Traveled Policy. The hearing from the last meeting has been continued. The council is reviewing this item. In a nutshell, what this is it's a state law that was trying to get less pollution in the air, so less cars traveling long distances, so we can reduce emissions and clean up our air. But what's ended up happening is it's become really a new tax for home buyers. You want to buy a new home, you can pay as much as $12,000 per home, and the developer pays it, but it really gets passed on to you. There are ways to potentially, in the spirit of the law that was passed in Sacramento, mitigate those measures to hopefully reduce that number to zero. But the flip side of it is all that money the city collects, the reason why maybe they don't want it to go to zero is they put it into a fund to complete pet projects in areas that actually don't benefit the neighborhoods that are paying that tax. So it's a bit complicated. It's something that we're looking at, and hopefully we'll be able to come to a resolution within the spirit of the original law that also doesn't pass on new fees and make it less attainable in the city of Fresno to buy a new home and achieve the American dream, which has just become so unaffordable for so many. Other things on the agenda, a lot of standard things that aren't as exciting or as detrimental to working families as this item. We do have an office to residential text amendment that has been continued to a future meeting. I'm not sure when that's going to be yet, but we do have our next council meeting 1 week later on November the 6th. So that's what's going on in the city of Fresno. And back to you, Darius.
You're muted, Darius.
Oh, I thought it was
Oh,
me.
sorry. I'm sorry. That was me. That was a great update. Thank you, Councilman. You know, I was coughing, so I thought I'm just gonna have to, while Mike is speaking, I have to curb and mute myself. Thank you for that reminder. Dan Black, long lines at soup kitchens will be the hallmark of the second Trump presidency, reminiscent of the Hoover administration. Much? Question mark. Brother, can you spare $100? Not a buck. Chris Dowdy responds, Dan Black, should the Republicans just cave and give Schumer what he wants for the people? Okay, what else we got? Proposition 50. Okay. Uh, there it is. Redrawing the lines. I'm going to start with, before, no, you know what? I'm just going to start straight in and bring in ex-Clovis mayor and current Clovis City Council member Drew Bessinger. Most of you know what Prop 50 is redrawn the lines on where congressional districts are going to be. A lot of folks say it's as a reaction to what Texas went through to get basically more Republican congressional districts so that Republicans could be better represented in in Congress, House of Representatives, and in the Senate. And so California and Governor Newsom said, okay, well, we'll redraw the lines to get more Dems. And I'm going to ask Lonnie to opine on that. But before we get there, I want to ask Drew, City of Clovis. This is a question a lot of us have. I've thought about this a lot. If this were to pass, what will happen to the city of Fresno, city of Clovis government? If you have an issue, federal government issue, you want to talk to your member of Congress. We have several that represent Fresno County area. I know Jim Costa is one, Adam Gray up north. How would that impact if 50 were to pass and you had an issue? Fresno City, Clovis City Council or the Clovis mayor had an issue that needed to talk to a member of Congress. How would that work?
I guess we have to decide whether we're going to talk to if it remains either McClintock or Vince Fong or Costa. So, do we have to seek out all three? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could make the case that gee, now we have three. They didn't do this to give Clovis three positions. What they did was they're trying to diffuse the votes of conservative minded people out into the hinterlands. I mean, the area that I'm in, everything north of City Hall will stretch to the Nevada border, down to San Bernardino County, up to Alpine County. Um, it, you can't say you're saving democracy and then act in this manner. I mean, right now there's 52 seats in the California's congressional group. 9 are Republican. They've stated the purpose is to gain 5 more seats so that we have 4 seats that are Republican in a state with the largest congressional group. When you look at what has occurred, just taking New York, California, Illinois, that's 95 congressional seats. 19 are Republican. And there are 7 states that have 0 Republicans representing their states in Congress. And that in all those states have majorities where Republican bases that are 35 to 45%. They have 0 representation. So yeah, you can't say that you're doing something to save democracy and then act like that.
I want to bring in Lonnie as well, because I know he wants to he wants to respond to this. But I mean, Drew makes a great point, Lonnie, that you know, are you going to move these lines around to reduce the number of Republicans that are going to represent? I mean, I know Republican representation of California is shrinking, and I don't know what the Republican Party registration is. Is it 25%, 22%? Is it 1 out of 4? Uh,
Well,
I don't know,
I
but
can address that if
okay,
you'd like me to,
please,
Darius.
please
Okay,
address that.
yeah, there's a lot of misinformation going around. We've heard some here tonight. To answer your question, it's 45-25 state. It's 45 Democratic, 25 Republican registration. This is an overwhelmingly blue state. But let's talk about how we got here, okay? Because I think that's really the issue. The state of Texas was brought in. They were in violation, found to be in violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 because what they were doing was racial gerrymandering. They were drawing districts to move people of color and put them in one place so to lessen their effect. The Supreme Court, a conservative court, by the way, told them you need to redraw these districts. State of Texas said, fine, we'll be glad to do that. We're going to draw the districts on the basis of political partisanship. We're going to gerrymander them districts that way because you can do that constitutionally. You can draw districts to favor a political party. You cannot draw districts to racially gerrymander. So they lost in the case of I think it was Abbott v. Perez, and so that's what happened there. So when they did that, when they redrew these districts mid-decade, only by the way the second time they had done so in 100 years, that caused a problem because they looked and found and know that traditionally the president's party loses seats in the House and the Senate in midterm years. Well, there's only 5 seats difference right now in the House of Representatives. So what was going to happen was they looked at this and they saw, well, shoot, we're going to lose the House. Then the Democrats will have a check on President Trump. They didn't want to do that. So Texas made its move. Missouri made its move last week. They passed two
Indiana.
new seats in North Carolina, and now they're getting ready to do some. I think they're taking it to the legislature in Indiana. Now, what people need to understand is in California, we actually gave the people, well, we didn't give them, but it's their right, the people of California to vote on this. They can vote this down next Tuesday, November 4th. They can vote it down or they can vote for it. The people of Texas were not given that opportunity. People of Missouri were not given that opportunity. People in North Carolina were not given that opportunity. The legislature just passed it. Gosh, I'll stop right there for a second, but
Let
I
me
could
ask,
go
let
on.
me ask, Lonnie, let me ask this. What's in your mind? You support Prop 50. Why? What's the reason to have Prop 50 pass? And I know, of course, you said, it's not the legislator is not slamming it down people's throats. People can make a decision. Of course, there's a lot of money being spent on marketing on both sides, mainly on Governor Newsom's Pro 50. What's the purpose of doing this now? Why? I mean, spend all this money on this issue before the next census,
Well, let's
which
talk
is in
about that.
5 years.
Because it's coming up on the what the Republicans are trying to do is they're trying to hold on the House through the 26 midterms. And you bring up a good point, Darius. I think about the money. People are upset because this thing's going to cost nearly $300 million. Okay. But the Republicans, they didn't seem to have any problem about spending $271 million when they tried to recall Governor Gavin Newsom, when they knew they read every poll that there was no way it was going to pass. He was not going to be recalled. And yet they spent $271 million on an election against Gavin Newsom just because they wanted to hurt him for his reelection.
Okay. Uh, Bill McEwen, comments?
Well, Politico reported today with in-depth reporting that the Republicans have put up the white flag on this. Last week, they spent $155,000 on advertising. Democrats spent about $4 million. They quoted John Fleischman. We all know him. He's the former director of the California Republican Party. He said Democrats are treating this as a full-throated, almost presidential campaign in California. But if you go to Republican home, it's crickets. The only thing they're getting is their ballot in the mail. And Charles Munger, who had been the big funder of the No on Prop 50, he has not contributed any cash to the cause in the week. In addition, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said he was going to raise $100 million to oppose Prop 50. He's contributed about $1 million. So, and all the polls now are breaking towards strong support for Prop 50. I have a final thought, which is President Trump has brought so much attention to this. Perhaps there will be a movement throughout the United States to go to independent districting commissions. When I was at the Fresno Bee and writing the editorials there, we hammered on this. I must have written 50 editorials supporting the independent commission. And I will point out that at the time, it was Republicans who started the movement in California for a nonpartisan independent commission, including Devin Nunes, a huge supporter. This was opposed by Democrats, and it was opposed because they felt that their stranglehold on the state capitol would be threatened. If you'll remember, it was voted down one time, and then it was passed. So if
Okay.
we can get this done in California, I'd like to see it spread throughout the country. Voters should pick their representatives. Representatives shouldn't be picking their voters.
Darius, can I comment on that? Um,
Yeah, briefly, because we gotta,
Briefly, yeah.
I
So,
want to turn
I
to the
understand.
next chapter of this Prop 50, but keep
Yeah,
going.
we support the Citizens Independent Commission. If Texas and if Missouri and these other states had independent commissions, we wouldn't be here right now. Okay, so I'm telling you as an elected party official that we're supportive of the commission. This would have never happened. Never happened. And in fact, Governor Newsom reached out to Texas. He reached out to the White House. Pull yours, we'll pull ours. And like someone said earlier, crickets. They want to continue this. That's why they're lining up all these states. And just one thing, because we're talking about local, and I know that's what you want to focus on, Darius, is we've already been held. The Trump administration, they target California, right? They target California. It's a blue state. Our high speed rail, whether you agree with high speed rail or you disagree with high speed rail, it makes no difference. The Trump administration has pulled $4 billion of high speed rail money. That's $4 billion that would have gone into our economy. That's gone now. Again, whether you agree with high speed rail or you disagree, it doesn't. It's irrelevant. That's $4 billion from the state of California. That hurts. You can't say that doesn't hurt. And I mean, I've got other examples of where the Trump administration is unfairly targeting California.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the root of this. Lonnie, I think it was you or Drew brought this up, that in midterms of a new presidential cycle, the Congress typically flips. So if it was a Republican Congress under Trump, it flips, becomes Democrat. And typically it's because the president gets in, forget the name and forget the party. They go,
Right.
we got to rush a lot of our stuff through, slam it through, and they do, and the population goes, wait a minute, not so fast. Why are you doing these things? And so this becomes an opportunity for the opposing party to come in and go, you know what? Let's vote some of these folks out. Did somebody in the Trump administration or in Congress go, there's going to be one massive blue sweep in 2026 because of all the rhetoric and the hoopla around the Trump administration and the Republicans falling in line to follow the president, and sometimes even against their own beliefs, uh, whether it's Gaza and Israel, foreign policy issues, amount of money we've spent to, keep people prisoned and not liberate them, like we typically do in wars, like we did in World War II, and which is a topic we've talked a lot about here, or other local issues, whether it's immigration, ICE raids, and so on and so forth. Is the root of this because somebody in the Republican Party, and I'm a Republican, but somebody in the Republican Party is going, oh my gosh, there's going to be one massive blue sweep. We're going to lose Congress substantially. And I'm really interested to see if some think tank didn't do an analysis that said, oh my gosh, we may become veto on, what is it? The Democrats may be veto proof number, whatever that number is, at 2/3 or three quarters, which means the president becomes basically powerless. Anybody,
Yeah,
Lonnie, do you have any
yeah,
data
I've
or?
got some thoughts. I do
Okay,
actually.
okay.
Between usually in the midterm, the opposing party picks up somewhere between 20 and 26 seats. No one sees that happening this time. The Democrats are not going to pick up that many seats. And of course, the Senate, the map for the Democrats in the Senate in 26 is going to be very, very difficult. What I think happens, and I think you're right to a certain extent, Darius, but the American people like a check. The president party right now controls the White House, both houses of Congress, and for all intents and purposes, the courts. They like a check, and there really is no check. We were talking about immigration earlier. He can kind of do what he wants to do. And that's why they like to do this flip. The Republicans looked at this and saw that there was going to be a flip. There probably is not going to be 26 seats, but there's going to be enough to get over the five to where the Democrats will control the House of Representatives. And that will put a serious check on President Trump. And that's what this is all about. That's what this is. And again, that's the issue. They went to all these states and they did all of this, and they're going to continue. And we'll see what happens. And I will say this, Darius, even if we pass 50 here in California, it may not be enough.
Yeah, a couple of questions for you, especially Lonnie. But Chris Dowdy's got a comment. This is all to benefit Newsom's presidential election in 2028, and it won't sunset. Comments on that?
How? How does it benefit Newsom? How does it
Because
benefit his 2020? If he runs for president, he, like every other Democrat in the last few years, will win the state of California. How does it benefit him?
I think the point maybe he's getting a ton of national coverage because of this. Prop 50 is not only hot item in California; it's hot across the country. Just like Texas for the legislator that became national news. Any comments on that?
If you're asking me,
Yeah.
he already has national stature. He is the governor of the most populous state, most powerful, influential state in the country. He is the leader right now, according to most polls, of Democratic candidates, and it's way, way, way early. I don't think he needs Prop 50. I think he's doing Prop 50 because he's still governor of California, and he thinks that there needs to be a check on the Trump administration, which is what Prop 50 is all about.
Check on that. That's a good point. That's going to be a clip all by itself, Lonnie. By the way, that's going to appear tomorrow on all GB
I
Wire
stand
social
by it.
media.
I
No,
stand by it.
it's a great comment. By the way, is there any thoughts? Do you know if Governor Newsom has any thoughts of actually seceding California from the rest of the union? We become our own country. We give more money to DC than we get back. Anyhow,
You're
we need
right.
armed forces. We need armed forces and a few other things. Otherwise,
Well,
somebody could attack us. But
let's talk a moment about that, Darius, and then
yeah,
I'll back off because you're bringing up some really great points. You know, I think it's silly that California would leave. Maybe parts of the country would like us to leave. I don't know, but I think it's silly that California would leave. But we are a debtor state. You bring up a great point. We spend $83 billion. We give the federal government $83 billion more than we get back. Okay, and by the way, that is consistent with most blue states. New York's that way, Illinois is that way, we're that way. It's red states that are creditor states, meaning that they get more money back from the federal government than they play in. So this is doubly aggravating that they're withholding all this money from the state of California when we're giving them $83 billion more. If you put in the COVID grants and things that we were supposed to get that the Trump administration stopped, it would be even more than 83 billion.
great points. I got to read a couple of these comments before I bring Bill McEwen on. Couple of feisty comments, but Chris Dowdy, Newsom gets to say he fought Trump and he can get media attention. Chill Sweet says, in that case, I think what he's referring to a response to Becky Wharton's comment on Trump 2028. Chill Sweet says, in that case, Obama 2028. And then Becky comes back with Trump 2032. And Chris Dowdy says, California gives away so much and is also in debt. Sounds like great management. Matt Rogers, Becky Wharton, you are, you can read the comments yourself. Okay. I'm going to go to Drew and then Bill. Drew Bessinger, comments about California. Is it true that you're supporting California become its own country? We can defend ourselves. We got all the technology. We can make our own movies. We have great weather. We have from skiing to the beach. We really need everybody else. We can, and we're the fourth largest economy in the world. Why shouldn't be our own country?
Well, unfortunately, I think that California has proven that they could screw up a free lunch.
Okay.
They used up all this money for high speed rail, which I was always in support of, but they can't they can't make it work because our CEQA rules and prevailing wage and all these other things have just driven that into the ground. Now, somebody brought up that Newsom wants to do this so that he can improve his position. That is absolutely correct because if they can get control of the Congress, the House of Representatives, they can bring never-ending impeachment things in, tie the administration up into knots trying to defend themselves. Even if they're going to lose it in the Senate, they're going to do it anyway because hell, if people were saying soon we're going to impeach them on day one, okay, it just gets to the point where you know, if California becomes its own country, yeah, I mean that's pie in the sky.
Okay. Let me bring Bill in, and then there's a lot of other great comments that I want to get to from Dan Black and Chris Daddy. Bill?
Well, I want to go back to redistricting because the way so many states are gerrymandered today, we're not going to see any waves in the future, red or blue,
That's right.
because the reality is there are only 35 competitive seats
Right.
in the whole country. This is all predetermined. If you're the top Democrat in California in all but a handful of districts, you're guaranteed victory. If
Mhm.
you're the top Republican in all but a handful of states throughout the South and the Midwest, you're guaranteed victory. We spend what, I don't know how much money on these elections every 2 years. Does it approach $1 billion altogether? And we're
About
talking
40
about,
actually.
yeah, and we're talking about 35 seats. And you know what? Here in the Valley, we've been the focus of national attention for about the last decade because often two or three of those 35 seats are here in the Central Valley, where Democrats tend to be more conservative. Republicans have a history of working across the aisle with their conservative Democratic brethren, and we have these very close races for these congressional seats. And, no better example than David Valadao. I don't know what his bill is for Tums on election night and for the next 29 days when they count it out. Close every time. We saw it with Duarte and Gray. We've seen it, Josh Harder's original race, extremely close. Now he's been gerrymandered into Josh Harder. He's safe for the rest of his life. Costa overperforms his Democratic registration edge, but he knows he's going to win by 4 to 6 points every time. It's just interesting. And I don't think enough exposure has been
Hmm.
put on this nationally. I mean, it should be a story
Okay.
that the New York Times and Washington Post and also conservative media do every day. We only have 35 competitive seats in America. Shame on us.
Good
Right.
point. We're about to wrap up, but yeah, Bill makes a really good point. And I think Lonnie Johnson's point was there's 40 billion that gets spent on these elections nationwide, over 35. I mean, on a lot of seats, but 35 competitive seats, several of them here in Central California. We'll see the outcome of Prop 50. Some of those races may not be as competitive, and so some folks don't like Jim Costa, some folks do. The and I'm going to say this, maybe not may not be a popular thing to share, but in competitive races, if you have a competitive race every time, which by the way, we the people want that. We want a resurgence of great new ideas, but there's also a value to incumbents that have been in the system for maybe not 2 decades, but maybe a decade. I mean, enough years where they know where the bathroom is, they know who to call, they know who the person that takes care of this, who's the staffer that I should be talking to address the issues in my backyard. It takes a few years to kind of get a lay of the land. And if you have to work your rear end off every time and win by just a few points, that means that you really can't. You have to be campaigning as soon as you get elected in the House. You got to be campaigning the
Right,
next day because your
right.
election is 2 years from now. So what it does, you can't spend enough resources and time and building better relationships in Washington D.C. to get better representation and to bring more dollars back to your district. It's not probably not a popular thing to say, but sometimes it makes to me it makes sense if and I don't know how to fix the system or even what to recommend, but some of these folks, Jim Costa is one of them. He's had a very tight race every year, maybe except 24. It comes down to 1 or 2%, 3%, and he won't know the election results for a while. As Bill said, that Valadeo, Adam Gray, actually, both of them were really tight. But those are Adam Gray's race was really hard fought. I mean, he won by 400 votes or 500 votes. So there's also some value of having tenure in Washington D.C. where you know your way around and you can, you know, become more influential versus constantly having to spend time and resources lobbying so you can get reelected. Um, Okay, we have a comment from Lonnie, and then one back from Drew. Lonnie.
Yeah, I would just I totally agree with you. And Congressman Costa is a great example. You know, people, he right now he's the ranking member on on the House Agricultural Subcommittee. That means any agricultural bill, any bill that deals with school lunch, anything that goes to the United States government, all the subsidies, everything goes first to that committee. Okay, that he has tremendous power. If the Democrats get control, he will be probably be the chair of that committee. Now, think about what that means for California and the San Joaquin Valley, how influential that would be. And if he was just a freshman or a sophomore House member, no way. He'd be a backbencher. That nothing like that would happen. And so, we've got to. These guys have got to do some time. And but you're also right too that they can't be just raising money constantly. I think a member of Congress is, and Bill probably knows better than me. They got to raise like $50,000 every day. I mean, they've got to be raising money constantly. And someone like Adam Gray, it's probably even more excessive than that.
Great points, and I agree with you, Lonnie. Drew.
We had talked about the redistricting committee or commission, and Clovis was represented by McCarthy. Then when he stepped down, we had Valadeo, who was basically holding our coat. They redistricted us out of the Fresno metropolitan area and hooked us to Bakersfield. And now they hook us to Elk Grove, the border, through the Death Valley to uh, San Bernardino County, like we're
Wait,
bastard
wait,
stepchildren.
wait a minute. You missed parts of outskirts of San Diego too.
Oh yes, yes,
I'm kidding.
and
I'm kidding.
yeah, well, I mean, pretty much. I mean, and it gets to the point where I think Lonnie made the point that we can't racially gerrymander. Well, but we can do it by party, but you can't do that with the existing law. That's the reason Prop 50 is going to change that. And when they say it's temporary to 2032. Maybe. My level of trust with state politics is there's always a new low, and this is going to be it.
Yeah.
I know Lonnie's going to want to respond to that, but I'm going to read a comment from Brad Stevens, and then we're going to go to Lonnie, and then it's our wrap up. By the way, 1 minute closing statements from all of us. Brad Stevens, California voters already decided this. In 2008, the voters took redistricting power away from the politicians. It was too much for them to be trusted with. Voters raised money, secured signatures, and ran the campaign. Now, Sacramento Democrats are using our money to take the power back after we struggled to wrest the power from the untrustworthy. Lonnie, you have the
Okay,
floor.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
first of all, you can gerrymander politically. Unfortunately, it happens all over the country. Take a look at the Louisiana Fourth District if you really want to see an example of it. And it's been going on since the beginning. Voting Rights Act, doesn't get involved in that. The reason there is changing the law right now is because this is mid-decade districting. That's what's happening here. Generally, we only redistrict every 10 years. But because, again, of the threats that have been done in Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, see, we're acting like they don't exist. Because of that happening, we are, the wolf's at the door. We've got to do something here, and that's why we're changing it. Back to these districts, well, I'm going to be in so and so's district. I'm going to be in so and so's district. Every 10 years we draw new districts. And as the councilman pointed out, it's, sometimes I'm in Valadeo's district, sometimes I'm in Fong's district, sometimes, you change districts and sometimes this upsets people. Sometimes they might say, I really like Congressman Costa and I was always in his district and now I'm in David Valadeo's district, or I really like David Valadeo. Now I'm in Congressman Fong's district. Look, these things have got to be drawn consistent with the law, consistent with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and this one is consistent with the Voting Rights of 1965. And I said earlier, I'll say it again. This is a temporary measure. If Texas would not have done what they've done, if the Republicans had not done what they've done, if we could just stay with the Independent Citizens Commission, life would be great. We'd sign off on that right now and everything would be perfect. But guess what? They did not. What is California to do? What's the alternative? And I ask if Donald Trump was president or governor of California and they had a super majority in the legislature, do you think they would be doing anything different? Do you? I guarantee you they'd be doing the same thing, something even more drastic, probably.
Okay, Drew, you have any response back to that before we wrap up?
Yeah, just specifically for Clovis, we've been taken out of our metropolitan area and hooked to Bakersfield. Why? Now we're being taken out of, and the California rule basically has to be geographically contiguous. You cannot draw districts by the California law existing to favor one party or another, and this is exactly what Prop 50 is doing. So you can't, in my mind, you can't say that you're doing a higher purpose, disenfranchising 40% of your California fellow citizens, but you're doing it for our own good. Those words were used 80 years ago, and they weren't good then. It's not good now.
Okay,
Darius, you gonna let me back in or?
you go for it.
All
And then
right.
I'm going to ask you what's on your wall. Okay, before
What's
we
on?
wrap up.
Okay, well
No, no,
let's
but respond to Drew first.
sure. Guess what? Everybody, like I'm a Democrat, obviously, and I'm in Vince Fong's district. Okay, we don't always get the representation that we want, and we're not. You made the point that we're disenfranchising folks. We're not disenfranchising folks. This is a 40-25 state. The registration and the representation is closer in California than it is in Alabama or Texas, where there's only a 10% difference in registration. Look at the state of Texas and look at how they draw districts when there's only 10% difference between registration between Republicans and Democrats. In California, it's 25-45. In the last three presidential elections, I'll let you know, it's been 30-point difference. This is an overwhelmingly blue state. Why is it if it's so wrong? Then why is it up? Bill said earlier it was in the 60s. Last I saw it was in the 57%. The people of California want this. They don't like what's going on. They want to check on this administration, particularly in dealings with California. And Darius, it's an elk. It's an elk European mount.
Okay,
A Roosevelt elk, by the way, a Republican type elk.
cool. Is
Bull
that something
moose
you shot? You
is a
shot
bull
that?
moose party elk.
Full
The
moose. Okay, okay, okay. Uh, Anything else? I think we're just about. By the way, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for having a very civil conversation on this important topic that uh, looks like it's going to pass next week. Is that what you said, Lonnie? The numbers are 57%. Is that what you're referring
it's
to?
57. It's at 57 right now. Bill might have better numbers than I've got.
Bill has access to deep inside the polling systems. He won't tell us who the mole is he's got inside. Bill, what is this gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
So Lonnie's right. I mean, the latest breaking poll show support for this at 56, 55, 57% in those areas. Of course, all the polls want to come out with something in the last week or so, draw attention to themselves, just like everything else in politics, draw attention to themselves. Darius, my closing word is, yeah, as Councilmember Bessinger has pointed out, is Clovis has gotten screwed for quite a while, regardless of who draws the lines. And
Right.
we're not talking about specific representatives because Lonnie's point is well taken. You are represented. The point is linking Clovis with communities that are 200 and 300 miles away. That's crazy. Look at the census. You know, they designate the Fresno Madera metropolitan area. It includes Clovis, the two largest population centers in a metro area. They should be linked and have fairly common representation in Clovis. And what's going to happen to Clovis with McClintock being the representative? I mean, I wouldn't expect a lot of constituent services. I wouldn't expect an office to be opened in Clovis, which certainly Clovis is big enough to have an office. But we will get some visits from time to time for fundraisers to run for reelection.
Thank you, Bill. You know what? I want to let's put slide 30 back up. It sounds like that could be, we have 30 back up. There we go. There's Clovis. And most folks, and I don't know which line means what, it sounds like uh, the red is the existing. Bill can hopefully can guide us through this, and then it could get changed to the blue and the green and the yellow potentially. Is that no? Wait a minute. The yellow is the freeways. The blue.
So Darius, what you're seeing here is the current map for Clovis, and you can see um,
Yeah, the red is
how
the
it works.
Clovis sphere. Is that correct? I think the red is the
Oh,
Clovis
no, this
sphere
is
line.
the proposed. So you see that Clovis is going to be divided up. See parts of 5 going all the way from the California northern border. 5 comes down into Clovis, and then you have 20 and 21 taking up part of Clovis. It's really chopping it up, and it's not as pretty as a pizza.
There you go. Lonnie, last words.
Well, I would just say, to the voters and to you folks, and thank you for having me. Just, what would you have us do? We really have no choice. We could just do nothing and let them, for all intents and purposes, steal the House of Representatives because that's what they want. The people want a check, and it would weaken California more, take more money out of our pockets. Like I keep saying, we're $83 billion that we send to them, we don't get. This money is getting more and more and more. California, this protects Californians, and gives us a seat at the table, which we do not have right now, and it's going to get worse. And so that's why this has to be done. In 2030, it's over. We go back to the independent commission, and because that's the law. And and what will happen is hopefully this will all be a passing phase and we can just kind of go back and let the commission do its thing because that's what we want. That's what we all want. And hopefully would be very good is if other states would take on an independent citizens commission as well, starting with Texas and Alabama and Missouri and on and on and on of these red states who fight it.
Okay. Thank you for that, Lonnie, and thank you for joining us tonight. Council member, ex-mayor Drew Bessinger of Clovis. Final thoughts?
Oh, right now, of the 53 congressional seats for California, Republicans have 9. The goal is to take 5 more, where basically we have no representation, or very little representation. And so the conservative voice is going to get diluted until we have none. And I really think that's the goal because in Massachusetts, they have 35-40% people who identify as conservative or Republicans. They have 0 seats. So you can throw all the dirt you want at Texas and Alabama and those places, but there are plenty of states that are blue states that have 0 congressional seats for Republicans. And if that's the goal, this is things aren't going to get pretty.
Okay. My, I have a question, and I wish by the way, we have invited Governor Newsom to this show, and hopefully we'll get him here soon. Lonnie may be able to help with that.
I'll
But
work on that, Darius. I'll
please,
work on that.
please, and why not? If California was its own country, he'd be president of California as a country.
Oh, Christ.
Christ.
Yeah,
There's
I mean
gonna be
gerrymandering, just kind of last point here. Gerrymandering happens everywhere. It's unfortunate. I teach government and politics, and one of the things I tell my students is probably the one thing you can do in the future to really help your country is get rid of these massive majority districts. It's gerrymandering, drawing these districts in such a way, because then you start to get people in power who are very polarizing figures, and the moderates they're the ones who their voice gets squashed out. It would be infinitely better if we actually had more moderate voices that actually reflect the views of the people. And so, if we could get some of these districts in both red and blue states to be more drawn fairly, maybe is the word, on both sides of the aisle, I think we would, as the American people, would be better served.
Thank,
Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
thank you
That's what we're
both.
trying to avoid here.
Thank you both
Oh.
for for joining us tonight. For a lot more articles on this and updates, I should say, on this, go to gvwire.com. There will be a new poll on should California become its own country, and you're going to get a chance for Central California GVWire viewers can opine. And does that make sense? We have to spend a lot of money on armed forces, etc. But we'll have a lot more freedom, regardless of what happens in Washington D.C. Of course, if you're the federal government, you would not want that to happen because we get a lot more money from California. The feds do then give back to us. On that note, I want to encourage everybody that has not voted to please vote. As an immigrant to this beautiful country, it's an incredible right, which I hold very precious. Please vote next Tuesday if you haven't already voted by mail. And I hope to see everybody next Tuesday night. We won't have election results until after the show is done. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Lonnie, for joining us. Thank you, Bill. Have a great evening and see you all next
Pleasure.
Tuesday. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Darius.
Thanks.